Okay, I think we're live. Welcome, everyone.
Yay!
Welcome to Let's Talk About What Really Matters with Ken and Kathy. This afternoon's focus is going to be on health.
Yeah, and I was thinking, hi everyone, it's Kathy Cushman, and I was thinking about this subject, and it's so huge. I mean, when you think about health, there's so many different aspects of it. What is my background blinking for everyone else?
No, it's not. It's fine.
Oh, okay. But it's just a huge topic. There's so many different parts of it, like physical health and spiritual health, mental health, so many different parts of it. And I realized for myself that sometimes I don't really want to focus on that. It's one of the areas that I'm like, let me focus on something I know more about. And I think that's part of it is I feel I don't know a lot about health, and there's so much information out there. I'm never quite sure if choices I'm making are healthy. Now, some of them I'm clear are not healthy, but then there's other times I'm not really sure.
Well, I know one thing that's been changing is as we get older, how we deal with our health has become very different. And I think that's one of the things that makes it like so not knowing. Like I learned a lot of things about health over the years, but my body's changing, everything about me is changing, and it's not the same as it used to be. My metabolism isn't the same. I'm going to be 62 next month. In 1 month, I'm going to be 62, and how my health worked and how my body worked 30 years ago was very different. I'm really excited because this episode we have one of our dear friends and colleagues and graduates, Tanya Abreu, and I'm going to bring her on right now and add her to our talk. If you're out there, if you're watching,
hey guys,
if you're out there and watching, make sure you comment. Let us know you're there, so ask questions or comments so we know when you're online. Hi, Tanya. Introduce yourself.
Hey, hi Ken, hi Kathy. I think you did a nice job. I'm a great admirer of these two human beings that have transformed thousands of lives through kind of really the experience of knowing yourself. And I want to say right off the bat, Kathy, the experience of knowing yourself in an authentic way and respecting your body's inherent dignity is complete and total wellness. All the other stuff you can deal with, but if you don't have that core center, everything's too much work. It's all too hard. It's all restrictive. It's all negative. So I want to start with that. But my name is Tanya Abreu, and I have been a consumer health advocate for about 30 years. My PhD work is in communications. And I took that and went to the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center Hospital System, McGee Women's Hospital, and spent a decade learning the power of language to help women change their health, right? To be happier about their bodies, to have better birth experiences. So I was marketing communications, and I've spent most of my life, actually all of my professional career, converting what we know about health into doing something about it.
You created some networks or inspired lots of women around women's health and hospitals and things like that.
Yeah, I've had a couple of networks. The very first one was in Pittsburgh at McGee Women's Hospital. We built networks in the United States, dozens of breast centers. We were really the first freestanding breast centers in the 80s. And then we also did around the world women's health advocacy centers, starting in the former Soviet Union. We built over 60 of them that were self-sustaining education centers that really were advocates for women's health change. And about half of them, I proudly can say, all these years later, are still standing and are still functioning in some capacity. The other network that I think you're referring to, Ken, is my hospital network of over 200 plus hospitals around the country that I had my own company, my own agency, and we kind of networked all of those hospitals together in something called Spirit of Women, Spirit Health Group. And what we helped hospitals do is grow their business first and foremost, because we all know that healthcare is a business, but we help them do it by allowing them to see and count that women don't want to be referred to as their body parts or their potential disease states. We are first and foremost emotional and spiritual beings. I don't care when I do my work in Kazakhstan, where you've been, or whether I'm in China at a UN conference, or whether I'm in Jamaica or West Africa or the United States. The one thing that we as women share is that health has nothing to do with our bodies. That's powerful. That's powerful truth. And for men, it's a little stranger because men, from the time that they get their first hormones, they're about physical activity. They live in their bodies. We as girls discover at about 11, 12 that we are like creators and that we actually make little people. And that's a lot different than what men physiologically discover. So I think for all of us, but it's easier for women to understand health as well-being, right? Unfortunately, most of us understand health as weight.
Absolutely.
Okay? Or diabetes or the numbers. But if we don't start that well-being, that I started that journey with you guys at Summit decades ago, a decade and a half ago. But it's only been maybe the past 4 years, right before COVID, into this 3 most stressful, difficult years, that I really get the connection between what I learned about authenticity and lying to myself and all that, the connection of that to my health. And I kind of reversed my aging. Many people have known me all this time saying, and it's all from right here.
Yeah.
The pandemic, I think, inspired it, or actually moved me along, created some urgency. When I started looking and when people were dying, and I was thinking about my health, and I had some breathing challenges as a child. I had childhood asthma, and I lost it as an adult. But I realized my lungs probably aren't the same as everybody else's, and I started looking at my health and some of the risk factors with being sicker. Or I was concerned, and we started working on our health then during the pandemic, and we started doing regular cleanses that really supported me, and so I got the focus off how many pounds I was trying to lose, right? But it really started to focus on getting my body back to the way that it should be. Eating clean and staying away from some of the processed foods and the things that we absolutely know do not serve us. I broke my addiction to Diet Coke a year and a half ago. I haven't had a Diet Coke since July. I was drinking a minimum of 6 a day, if not, I'm not going to even say. But anyway, I'll get off of that one. But, I don't have the desire for that. And even after my last cleanse, I realized that, I've been eating less meat, not intentionally, but my taste has changed and how
your body tells you what to do.
Right? It does if you listen. That's part of the challenge we have.
What you said about well-being, like how I feel. And I think particularly as women, we're not taught that that's where to look for help. Not to look at, do I feel good? How what's going on for me? It's like, do I have a certain weight, right? What are my numbers? What is
Does
this?
my skin look my age? Does this look
exactly.
I mean,
How many
it's
wrinkles
just so
do I have? All of that, right? Instead of really focusing on, what's occurring for me? Who am I being in the world? And that well-being really is what we're looking for. And that's an overall thing, not just a number on the scale.
Yeah, and I don't know whether you all were aware, but I had a real 10 years ago, 11ish, had a real late stage cancer scare.
Mhm.
And that was understanding for the first time that cancer had nothing to do with my body. That cancer had to do with my allowing disrespect to occur in my body. Now, let me explain. I had 3 to 9 months to live, according to the diagnostic oncologist. And I just decided that wasn't going to be my sentence. And I had been in, allopathic traditional healthcare my entire career. And so I went to the doctors, the oncologists. It was a gynecological cancer, the gynecologist that I respected most. And they said to me, take everything in modern medicine with a huge grain of salt. And they gave me references, referrals to places and people that were both allopathic and integrative. And I spent a lot of money because none of this was covered. And I spent a lot of time, a lot of emotional health too, because it's exhausting. I was by myself in the process. And I don't want to say I cured, but I neutralized the negativity and the self hate and the unforgiveness in my life that had appeared as cancer. And I worked with doctors through surgery, through radiation. I didn't do chemo, but I did shut down all my hormones because it's a estrogen based. And here I am. And I go back. I used to go back twice a year. I only go back now once every 2 years. And I've been able to be clean. But I know that just when I forget to really care about every imperfect part of this body, that those cancer cells can come home again. And all cancer is are cells that are inflamed and then start breaking and then start mutating in their broken way, and then they start hurting the healthy things in your body. And when you begin to think about that, and you don't have to get rid of all the broken cells, you just have to get rid of the majority. So it's a powerful lesson I went on after I knew you guys closely. And that just reminded me, Kathy, like you just said, that health is just far more about well-being than it is about any number that you can get on a piece of paper.
I learned a long time ago that, with our disease and the things that we have, it starts with a thought. And so handling ourselves emotionally, physically is not enough, but also emotionally, mentally, spiritually, as we improve that area of our life, our health soars.
Mm-hmm.
My mom had a similar experience with cancer, and she lived a lot of years. Back in 1979, they noticed something on an X-ray, and they immediately took her in for surgery and opened her chest and immediately closed her back up because they found a tumor that covered her heart sac as big as your fist. So it just covered her heart sac. There was no way to remove it because it was on the heart sac. Right? And they told her, you need to get your things in order. You have about 6 months. Mom lived to 2006. But she went through lots of cancers, but her mindset, she felt like it wasn't her time. Not like in a desperate way or anything like that. She just really felt in her heart that there was a reason that she was here and something that she still had to do, an impact to make.
And you need to parking lot that, Ken, because it's about mindset and it's about having purpose. And you just described your mother like that. And as you too, I know you're working in the corporate world and you're working in personal consulting and coaching. But, when people come to me and say, Tanya, I know you went through cancer. I know you're in healthcare. I have really bad cancer. What's your advice? And I always start with, first of all, it's not a really bad cancer. Stop. That's your mindset. It's your mindset, right?
Yeah.
There's not a champion sports person in the world that starts out saying, I don't think I can do this. It's just not winning championship mentality.
Yeah.
And so what you just said, I think are the critical three things I tell people about facing chronic or critical diseases. One, it's the mindset. Two, you already covered it, purpose. Really having a feeling that you have a purpose here.
Mhm.
And whether it's religious, we do know that spiritual people do live longer with cancer and other diseases that threaten with early death. But it's a purpose. It's feeling like I am a part of this beautiful, crazy mechanism called nature, and I've got a reason to be here. I may not know it, but I'm serving. Okay, so you've got mindset, you've got service. And the third one, I actually saw the science behind it. Cancer Treatment Centers of America, I will forever hold. They were not, they were a second opinion for me, but I had a very good friend at the time who was the CEO, and he introduced me to all of the leading minds in the group. And the one was the pastor, um, pastoral care, the director of pastoral care at all of their facilities. And he had written a book called The Cancer Cure. And it was a book about all the amazing cancers that he had seen go into remission remarkably. And the one thing they all had in common was forgiveness. And of course, he was a religious man, and he said, why did Christ die on the cross? Not because he sacrificed Son of God, not because of, just to show us the very last thing you say is, Father, forgive them. I'm in a lot of pain. I'm really hurt. My life is ruined, but forgive them. I don't
You
want
know,
that extra pain in my life. And so this guy's book, The Forgiveness Cure, really talked about how people began to forgive either others or themselves. And when they began to do this and restore the dignity and the faith in their own bodies and their own lives, and the fact that they could get rid of that anger. And we all know that anger and grudges cause inflammation. And we know at the base of all cancer, diabetes, heart disease is inflammation. So you've got to get rid of that. You've got to get rid of that. And I know you guys know, and I talk about it as a speaker, but I was sexually abused by a family member growing up. And my God, when I had cancer, I had to forgive that. And I had to say, here's a pedophile, a really sick human being that I have to learn to love, because it's only through that that my body will heal.
Yes.
Crazy lessons, hard lessons. People think I'm crazy for talking like that, but you got to.
well, someone once said, it's attributed to a number of different people. I don't know that anybody really knows who it was, but someone once said that holding resentments is like taking poison and expecting the other person to die. When
I've seen that.
when we hold that anger and we hold those resentments inside, it just eats away at us. That mindset destroys us, in all different ways, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. It eats away. There's nothing that it serves within us. And so it's important to let that go. When I learned that forgiveness had nothing to do with the other person, it's actually a gift that you give yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm letting go
Freedom.
of that energy that eats it. Exactly, that's eating us away.
Mm-hmm.
You posted. I can't remember the thing that you posted, but it pretty much what it says on that stuff that's going on inside of us. It doesn't just eat us away, even though it is. It spills out over other people, and it affects
Oh,
the
your
people around
family,
us.
your children, everything. I have the honor and God's service of helping to raise my grandchildren, and both
They're
of them.
amazing. I love seeing them.
Thank you, Kathy. You have to meet them. They have such big, big, authentic spirits. Not always perfect, but we allow them to be as crazy as they need to be in order to bloom into what they should be. Right? Remember that you don't know what you don't know.
Yep.
And so many of us raise children thinking we know about it, right?
Yes. Hmm.
But, one of the things that I'm learning from them, like just so amazingly, on the days where I am pinched, like really pinched by people I try to be better at only hiring clients that I honestly love, that I honestly care about. I don't care about what work-life balance. I think that's all phooey. Anything I work at, I have to love. It has to be fun anymore. And so sometimes I give away big money for that. And sometimes I'm stuck in situations where I don't have enough, right? And I'm learning how to break through that. Like, Tanya, you're always going to have. But when I'm pinched, I try really, really hard to make sure the kids don't see that. No way. They know every
Everything.
vibration of me,
Yeah.
right? And so my 11-year-old will come in with F bombs out of nowhere. And I'm saying, well, I'm creating that. I'm creating that. So yeah, no, it spills out everywhere. It spills out everywhere.
Well, and I think with so much social media these days, I think there's
Oop, we lost her.
yeah. Where'd you go? I think there's so much more like anger and frustration. I think it has contributed to the illness in our world.
Oh, and it's scientifically proven, Kathy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned this earlier, and you talked about purpose, right? And having that, and I think that's so important to have something that's important, to connect with that and use that to dictate what I do about my health. You know, choosing from there. You know, as we were developing our virtual programs, you know, a concept that really struck me, and I've been working on a new program that we're going to offer sometime next year, and that's called Ikigai. And maybe you've heard of this Japanese concept, but it's about living from your reason for being. So Ikigai, roughly translated, is reason for being. But when my purpose dictates my choices, when I choose from my purpose, like the difference that I'm here to make, to be the inspiration and the catalyst for change in others in the world. Like when I choose from that, then I make healthy choices.
Yeah, you can't be the catalyst for change eating Doritos.
Well, the spicy ones you can.
Well, no, I get it, but you know what I'm saying. You can't be a catalyst, for change when you aren't a reflection of your purpose all the time. And I wish and I hope that we get a chance to talk about what you're doing next. But for me, those kids that are in their 20s and 30s now, breaking through in personal development is just not enough. It's not. And I think maybe this icky, I can't remember how to say it, I can see it, but this ikigami approach where you define, I love Doritos. Matthew, be good.
Thanks, Matt.
I actually really like, tortilla chips myself with buffalo ranch, cream cheese, chicken dip that my grandson makes. But hey, I only do that once in a while.
Right.
But I just really think that it's just critical that we go beyond that breakthrough where you know that you lie to yourself and you figure out how to do that less so that you can have better relationships, so that you can make better financial but there's another step, and Ken and Kathy, I think you can help people who are even younger get to that, which is all that stuff comes much easier if you get to purpose and service first. And I don't know, God, I don't know how to do that, Ken. I'm hoping you do, and Kathy. But I know that I've been thinking for years. I do my own little podcast and growing quite a significant brand called Rethink Your Health. So it's RETITHINK, and then UR Health. Rethink Your Health. And as I do more of it, I'm thinking we need a breakthrough course in this. We need people who are dealing with high blood pressure. We're not doctors. That's I'm not, never have been. But my doctor sometimes calls me for advice on complicated diabetes patients because I've done miracles with myself. But it comes through that breakthrough and that sense of purpose, mindset, and forgiveness. And if we could take that triad, and bring it to people in a course of some sort and call it breakthrough healing. There are lots of people who do it. Tony Robbins does a good one. And of course, back in the day, Christine Miss did great. But I just think it needs to be more practical and less woo-woo, because it's science. It's science.
Jerry said breakthrough trainings for young adults. I know Jerry's very passionate about the teen trainings that we do. We haven't developed our virtual version of the teen training, but it's definitely in our plans going forward.
Mm-hmm. Well, kids have a hard time unless you're a video game. They have a really hard time with integrating their minds and hearts with a screen. I've watched with homeschooling, like one of Cody, for instance, trying to read a book and do a meaningful book report online isn't the same as being in the classroom, wanting to impress your teacher, wanting to tell a story to other students, wanting to be tactile, wanting to have your voice heard. That vibration in young kids, it's everything. It's everything. And that's why, teen suicide went up 200% during COVID, because teens can't handle being alone with their computers, even though we all think they can, and that's all they want to do is play, video games. It's really not true. There's a real connectivity that we all need. We all need it.
Yes.
This work has, supports people at really looking at some of those blocks and those barriers, and whether it's health, stuff from the past or whatever it is that's important to you, this technology can really support people. I've had a few people ask me, what do you think about the metaverse or the virtual world of this? And maybe that's what is that will reach the younger people, to be in something that's a little more like that.
Yeah, that really absolutely. I met a gentleman who actually has become a little bit of a friend, and he worked with, oh my goodness, Stan Lee, before Stan Lee died. And Stan, of course, was a big proponent of the metaverse, and somehow at some point making movies in the metaverse and having us all be in those movies, right? And I think that is, I don't want to be too obtuse, but I think that is a direction in the future. How we talk about in development work, you're replaying the same movie in your head. Well, what if you literally made somebody do that in the metaverse? After 4 or 5 ridiculous portrayals of themselves in the metaverse, I think they can break through much easier, because that story has to stop.
I was thinking about this whole thing. If you would have asked me 3 years ago what I thought about doing trainings online, I could have gave you hours of all the reasons why not, until we started looking at the need for it. Right? And I know the pandemic is changing and how it is, so getting back in person is not as challenging as it was, but we're starting to see so many more benefits of doing something online. But my resistance to something, that wasn't in person really limited us for a while. Yeah. And so I know I'm open to this idea.
Ken, I'm still old school. I think when you start bringing up, especially in the development work or in health, right? Because I do a lot of workshops for women who have been abused, or, there's only so much you can do online when somebody shuts their computer off because they can't do it anymore. And you really have very little control in those moments. I am working with somebody that has been a trainer. It's in resuscitation, it's in medical field. But I admire what she's doing, because she's going to be doing online to thousands, if not tens of thousands, in basic confidence, courage, and competence in resuscitation. But the real work that does the change agent stuff is coaches. And coaches she just said, I can't do that unless I can be with them, right?
Mm.
So I think there are different types of work that we
Mhm.
can do. One where we can really hit the masses. Like I know that when I can talk to somebody and I can get out to maybe my biggest online audience was like 1,200 people. I know that I can get to 2 or 3 people really, really well. And
Mhm.
that's pretty much probably what I would do in a normal room with 2 hours. But if I really want to help someone develop into a servant, right? I don't know if I can do that online, but I'm willing to try. But
Mhm.
I do know that I can do health online, that we can get to the point where we can help turn around things like weight, turn around things like high blood pressure, diabetes, by this virtual world where we honestly care about people and we can do the work.
Mhm.
Well, I'll say this. I believe you can. I'll say it this way, stronger. I know you can because I've seen
Mhm.
it
Right.
happen online
Good.
recently where people are waking up and seeing a new possibility and
Mhm.
we're not in person. And like I
Mhm.
was so adamant and against this whole idea of virtual because people have been asking me for years, why can't we do these trainings online or like on TV or something like, oh, it's experiential. And but experience happens here.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
really
You know.
does. It's like within me. Kathy and I
Mhm.
have had these discussions about how powerful the mind is because the reality of it is, even when we did our own physical trainings personally and what we produce for other people, it's happening here and here
Right. Right.
versus the physical world had nothing really to do with it. It
Yes.
was just happened to be there. So
Well,
it's
and I think the one thing about it for me though is I don't want to say it, maybe it takes more time or more trust.
mhm.
Like there has to be like a deeper level of, because I understand what you're saying about turn off the computer, right?
Mhm.
So to me, there has to be a level of um, family, community, relationship. We're in this together
Mhm.
in order to have this venue work in the way that we want it to work.
Yes, and it's funny because I'm making that healthcare connection because I do a lot of work right now in chronic care management digitally and remote patient care digitally. And let me just give you guys an example to think about.
Mhm.
Mhm.
When you talk about trust, when you talk about feeling protected, when you talk about getting to that point where people are vulnerable sooner rather than later, if you are going to do that online, whether it's for spiritual, emotional, mental health, or whether it's for physical health, you have to practice. You have to have exercises that help people get to the connection between heart and mind. Because when I'm on the computer, except with really special people, honest to God, like you guys are special to me, so I'm present.
Mhm.
But I'm telling you, usually I'm not, just my mind is. And it's not like I'll talk, you can catch me, but my heart's not there.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking back to the very first training I went to with Ken and Kathy and how I can to this day remember the feeling that I had when I discovered you put people posts outside of our door, not to keep us in, which was creepy. That was my first thought, but to protect me from strangers listening or coming in to my private moment. You know what a difference that makes? I
Mhm.
don't know how to do that online.
Mhm. Well, and here's the thing, there's a lot of people that do our trainings that that thought that that was the only reason people were outside. They never figured out that it was about protecting them. So, um, I think it has to do with, like, just really being for people. And I
Mhm.
know that's not easy, and there's not, like, a simple answer, but I think it's really important right now. I think one of the things that's occurred during the pandemic is we've lost a lot of ability to connect with communities. right? Not just our physical community, but other communities we had. Like we stopped going to work and then we had our work communities, right? And um, our physical communities, we stopped connecting with them. So we like really, I feel like we lost a lot of community connection.
Mhm.
And that is super important for people in their health in all areas, right?
Yeah. And that's
And
why I was saying there's lots of similarities, because in digital health, you can have telehealth and it's absolutely meaningless. I will tell
right,
you that 80% of the doctors and NPs that get me on the phone and get others, and you look at the research, nothing real happens. Misdiagnosis, wrong medications. I mean, I have an instance where I know that somebody was medicated because he's a child for 85 pounds when he's 150 pounds. So, I mean, it's just not accurate. But I, for instance, have an NP right now that is present for me, that actually knows my history, knows my personal story, and she's traditional. This is not any kind of integrated health practice. And I look forward to digital healthcare with her, but that's rare. And so
yeah,
we have to work as a country, at least in healthcare, to get to the point where we have not just, okay, here's your information that's going to come every day on how to keep your diabetes under control. How many of us are going to read that after the first couple of months? We
Hmm.
have to find more meaningful ways to engage our hearts and our purpose in telehealth or digital
Hmm.
health, right? So it's tricky. So I'm looking, you guys have always been people I've really admired in this, because I've been to landmark trainings. I've been to two or three after summit. Nothing was the same, even though we went through the same exercises, really very similar, enlightenment exercises. But the being there, Kathy, that vibrational energy, whether we can maintain that and sustain that online or not, was the difference between Ken and Kathy and 4 other programs I've gone through.
You know, the feedback that we have over the last 2 years of development is really, the answer is yes. And I think what we do is, it both with graduates and new people, it's the relationship that we create and the commitment that each other makes to each other. We create a
Mhm.
learning community online. And one of the some of the things that people have said about it is that, when I'm sitting in a physical looking at the back of most people's heads, I see the trainer or the facilitator at the front of the room. Unless I'm doing an exercise or a dyad, that's my view. And they said, there was an intimacy and a level of safety they felt looking at everybody, because they could see
Mhm.
everybody, they could see how everybody's reacting,
Yeah.
and there was a connection that was created that I think really supported it. As we did the
Mhm.
first, maybe 3 or 4, it became clearer that that was one of the benefits. Even my
Mhm.
mentor, Dennis Becker, he was one of the early trainers trained in this work, like the fifth or sixth trainer trained back in 1975. He asked me about the trainings, and I invited him to sit on a training or maybe even participate as a participant. And he jumped in as a participant, and he was shocked about what was being able to created online. He's been
Yeah.
doing this work since '75, and
Yeah.
just the benefit and what people created.
Yeah. And I,
And
and I have a lot of respect for other graduates, and Ralph Campbell.
yeah.
Um, he's been able to do that too online,
Hmm.
right? And that is great. And I don't know if I can sustain it for a large group. And so that's the secret Cushman sauce
Yeah, I know you can.
that I think
yeah,
is important. And if you can figure that out, let me sell that to my hospitals and doctors, because they're really having a hard time with it, right?
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
Well, you said that really the key is getting from up here and getting down to the heart and getting to the essence of who we are and letting that touch people and connecting with people. So
Right.
compassion, empathy, right,
Mhm.
connection. And I know a lot of times in the health field that gets trained out of people so they can be, neutral and not in reaction or get caught up in
Right.
the emotion.
And that's what we have to train back into our young doctors and back into our nurses, because it really has been a liability to be a human being. in the healthcare world. It's just been, it takes too much time. You don't get paid for kindness.
Mm-hmm.
Medicine heals faster than kind words. Even though we know that's wrong, it might do that in the beginning, but in the long term, if you're a diabetic that can't control the fact that you need to eat a box of, cupcakes, that's not because you're taking metformin or Ozempic. It's because you don't have a meaningful connection to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
as a person that the world needs,
Mm.
right? So how do you push that into healthcare? I'm not sure, but you know me, I'm an ultimate business heart person, and I'm thinking, wow, can you guys train for telehealth? Can you guys, I mean, taking all these decades of experience of the Cushman coaching approach, and can you coach call centers? That, just imagine for a second, because this is why they're failing. There are all these, now Medicare is paying for us to do digital health for people with heart failure. It's the worst thing, because these little old ladies and little old men, they love to get in their rides and get to the doctors and make fun and have fun with the nurses, get on the scale and go, ooh, I lost weight, ooh, I gained weight. Talk to the doctor, tell them about their children, whether the doctor listened to or not. It was a stage in which they were alive.
Yeah.
Now they have someone calling and saying, how much I see on here, you're 140 pounds. That's 3 pounds less than before, or that's 4 pounds. You're doing okay. I see your numbers. Okay, everything's fine. Have a good day. No. Okay, have a good day.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just in and out, right? The time,
Number
profit.
based, touch base.
Well, it sounds
Because
like
your insurance, I just was told by somebody right now, the most important thing to ask is your insurance the same?
Mm.
Yeah. Well, and with the context being, what's the most efficient way to do this? You'll never create the context of what's the most meaningful way to do this, right? You've got to shift the context of what's the purpose of what it's being done for, right? It's very clearly being done to save money.
And so, in just kind of piggybacking on that, I think, yes, it could support call centers, but until you get what's driving the call center, the context, that's going to happen at a higher level, and that's one of the challenges.
But what's cool right now, Ken, is that context is being created. Things are breaking down. Dozens and dozens of hospitals are closing every single month. Doctors are walking away at record numbers, wanting to be entrepreneurs in new ways. And believe it or not, Medicare and our payer systems are saying, whoa, we're falling apart too. So maybe we need to pay for mental health for the first time ever, because it looks like stress is the precursor for every disease. Wow, we've been hearing that, but now we have to pay attention. So there's a point now that we can get in there and help rewrite the movie.
Right. Actually set the context that we want, right? If we could do that, then that would shift for all the people that work there, and it doesn't have anything to do with, okay, it's online or it's not online. It's still, oh, I'm visiting with you as a client. We're here talking. How are you?
I'm visiting with you. I see you.
Yeah.
I hear you.
That
exactly.
I think is the most important thing.
Yes.
Is that could change, really begin to transform it, is having people get that person that they're talking to needs to be seen and heard, felt seen and heard. Because it's in that they feel valuable and important.
Right.
Yeah. And there's just all kinds of cool ways. Like, I'm working on a model where if you're a nurse that's talking to somebody and their numbers are off or whatever, you just go ahead and send a $15 an hour, $20 an hour CNA there for 2-3 hours to visit, to look around, to play a game, to read a book, to watch some TV with somebody. And what the research is finding is that you're going to save trillions of dollars in healthcare just by taking loneliness out of the equation of heart failure. I've been working with a lot of cardiologists on this whole chronic care management. And a lot of them are saying, and my favorite one, now she is a concierge, so her patients pay her, I don't know, I think it's 5,000 a year. But she says, I will miss my patients. I know my patients, and they bring things to my life like I bring longer life to theirs. That's a doctor,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
right?
I don't want to change the topic too much, but I was just thinking, here we are, we're coming into the holidays. Thanksgiving, which becomes about food, right? And we miss some of it. And as we go in the holidays, all the baking and cooking and stuff. And I know this can be a challenge for lots of people at this time.
Well, because a lot of it is emotional eating, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
A lot of it is, this is the time of year where abundance and overindulgence is welcome. And I have to step back and remind myself that it's almost an animal, it's a primal time of year, because you're done with the harvest, you're done with the hard work of the summer, and you can get a little fat and lay around, and it's actually good for you, and it's healing to your mind to spend time with your family. But like, we're no longer those people, right?
Right.
We're no longer those people. And but I remember, well, I was a 340-pound 30-year-old. So I remember what it was like to be justified in overeating, because everyone finally around me was doing the same thing. And so now, all these years later, you begin to say, what is my purpose, right? And does overeating all of these carbs at the Thanksgiving table that make me weigh 5 pounds more the next day from bloat and salt and taxing my kidneys and my heart, is it really worth it? Can I eat a third of it and go for a walk with the kids, or take them somewhere that will have an indelible memory for them? And so, to answer your question, Ken, because you are one of the best foodies I know. You know how to appreciate not just the way something tastes, but the environment in which it's created. That is, number one, a way to lose weight, to actually appreciate what you eat more, and be able to eat less of it and have little. But it's all, I will tell you, we started out saying that health is about well-being, mindset. It's about forgiveness, and we know connection, all that stuff. But it's also about this: two other things: eating better and moving more.
Mhm.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
People want to say to me, "Well, Tanya, what are you doing?" I eat better. I do take like 4 supplements, but that's it. I eat better. I move more. I love myself. I have a purpose that I don't lose sight of. I wake up, my prayer is, God, continue to grant me the ability to give people hope. That's my purpose. And I wake up and I say that to myself. And sometimes it's hard, because I just want to smack someone around and not give them any hope at all. But it's what drives me. And so when I go to overeat, and there's this beautiful plate, and I'm speaking from experience, of like a creamy tomato vodka pasta, and it's just so good. And I just know that I want to overeat
Stop.
because I'm enjoying this. I say to myself, there are probably about 30 people right now that I've restored hope that they can get healthier bodies and get off of medication to. What am I saying to them? They're not looking, I know,
Mm-hmm.
but what is my being doing? And it helps, it really does. And if it doesn't help, I just get up and move away, you know? Yes, it's like I teach Cody, my 11-year-old, get up if you want to smack something, and move away, because if you don't, you're going to smack it. Same thing with that pasta. If I don't, I'm going to justify eating it. Or a bag
You
of
know,
M&Ms.
one of my you can call it one of my love languages is like I love cooking for people. I love making
Yeah.
great things. As we come into the holidays, it's one way that I can communicate that and make it special, whether it's how it looks, tastes, or the experience around it, right? And so that can get challenging.
Really, it
Right?
can.
And as I've been
Even just tasting food can get challenging.
well, then one of the things that's really beginning to occur to me is now that my taste is changing, these cleanses have really helped me reset and enjoy things that have less chemicals, right? Because that's where we're getting all the flavor, and the addiction was the crap that they put in food, right? That making things that are really, really good for you,
Yes.
right, is that, right? And so then it supports us. It's a kind of a win-win.
Well, I'm waiting for that invitation to one of those dinners, because I do truly, one of the reasons why I follow you is not because of mad respect, but the food pics. The food pics are extraordinary. And of course the dog pics. But it really is. And yes, it's hard, but I will tell you, there are some other little secrets, like making sure you take a really good probiotic twice a day. That probiotic will stop you from overeating, because it really makes the inside environment of your body healthy. And a healthy body doesn't want to feel like crap.
Mhm.
You know, we
So, yeah.
I've been experimenting with some probiotics, some natural ones, right? As I did my research around Ikigai and what people in Okinawa were eating. They eat a lot of fermented foods,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
In Mexico, I
Kefir,
found that.
even Russians and Kazakhs and everything, they eat like kefir. All those
Mhm.
places eat something that's fermented, and that's the probiotic stuff.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, tribal peoples, Moroccan people, they all have something like that. And, I hate to, okay, so if you go on to rethinkyourhealth.com, I did put a blog up, because I did a lot of research on probiotics. I was spending like $75 for probiotics that you can get now for $30 every month. And that $30 a month, which is literally maybe four Dairy Queens, maybe
hmm
even three, really just changes the way I eat. Um, I used to have a really hard time doing that thing. What's it called? The fast that you don't eat for 16 hours. And used to have a hard time doing it, right? Because I figured I blame it on like my diabetes or whatever. But since I started taking probiotics, I'm not hungry until 1, 2 in the afternoon. And, my body shuts down eating at around 6 or 7. And so I do think it's not all about loving yourself. It's really hard to love yourself around brownies. I get it. I get it. But there are real things that you can do, to help. Um, Gerald, if you go, I don't like to recommend just one. So there are two that I put up. One that I use personally, and I won't even say that one because they don't pay me to say it. But those two things are up there. And if you just go to www.rethinkyourhealth.com, so it's RETHINK, your with UR, and then health.com, and look up probiotics and how they can help you lose weight. Um, they help me eat less. That's all I can say. And they help me with cravings. And the one I use is the one that's cheapest. How about that? It's
I
the one
like
that,
that.
yes. And because, this whole craze of educated people to live longer and all this, they'll take something like basic, like magnesium, and you can get a high quality magnesium for $10 that will last you 2 months. And they turn it into a supplement, and they add some herb and charge $70 for the month. So
Mhm.
I always encourage people, get your stuff through food, but you know what? You can't. Our
Yeah.
food, I don't care where you're living, how you're doing it, unless you're living in Japan, um, or you're living in certain parts of our world, the blue zones, you can't do it. So you have to supplement. But you don't have to do crazy costing supplements. You just have to make sure that they're produced in an FDA approved facility, right? That just means that if they come and get looked at, everything will be kosher. And it also says they're testing for their potency,
Mhm.
because as you know, if you remember all these vitamins were taken off of either a CVS or a Walgreens, one of the major ones, or even Walmart, and tested, and none of them have what they said they had in them.
I think you could have a whole series of episodes that talk about this whole thing, and especially with some of the natural things out there that you could eat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it. I know that we're getting closer to 3.
One other thing I just did research on that I'm in love with is, and I don't know how to say it, it's what is it, hon? Ashwagandha. I have a very dear friend who works on my health projects with me. She's a neuroscientist researcher, and she brings all these crazy things to my attention. And this ashwagandha is an amazing ancient herb out of Indian Ayurvedic, also out of Africa. And it's amazing for your heart health, but what it does for your mental health is everybody in the United States needs to be on this, because it is really powerful. And there are all kinds of clinical trials on it, not just from around the world, because we all trust anything that ain't American, but here in the United States, really good trials. And here's the cool thing. It's like $10 to do a month of it, 15 at the most to give it a shot. Wow. It's powerful stuff too, but I can't take more than 5-6 pills a day. So I try to do what does the most for me.
So Tanya, I know you would you talk a little bit about your show? You've invited me to be on your show. Is it in a week or next week?
You're the week right before Thanksgiving, so we can talk about being in service to yourself and not overeating all that stuff you're going to cook, and you can always send it back to me. But yes, the show is Rethink Your Health. If you go to either our website or Facebook or Spotify or Apple, YouTube, because then you'll see the videos of it. We are on, you will be our 48th episode. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
We stream live on 8 social media platforms, and we're up now to about 2,000 views per episode. So, which in today's crazy world of lots and lots and lots of podcasts is really good, I'm told. So yes, please, please, please. Oh, you're welcome, Matthew. Anytime that you're with Ken and Kathy, it's a learning experience. That's for sure.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks.
So, I wanted to say a couple things just so people know. We are running a sweepstakes, or actually a drawing each month for a free scholarship for the Breaking Through process. That's both part 1 and part 2. And we do that at the beginning of each month. Because of Thanksgiving, we are going to do another one on Thanksgiving. So make sure, if you want to register for the drawing, go to CushmanCoachingandConsulting.com and register. When the pop-up comes up, register, and you will be in the drawing. We'd love to have you. Our next Breaking Through begins on November 30th. It's actually the Wednesday after Thanksgiving. So we're really excited about that.
Yep.
And next week we're still going to do a show next week on Thanksgiving.
And talk about what we're thankful for.
Thankfulness and gratitude. And so
Nice.
if you can, or while you're cooking, just listen in, or just share with us why you're thankful. Very important that we stay focused on that.
Tell us what you're grateful for, what you're thankful for.
And Ken and Kathy, please let me know how I can download this this actual podcast so that I can put it on Rethink Your Health, so that
Absolutely.
I can start talking about the breakthrough and try to get some people to be excited and about the experience.
Well, and actually, for you or anybody else, you can just actually share this. If you go to our webpage, either Cushman Coaching and Consulting, or my personal, or our YouTube channel, which is CCC Transformation, then you can get it there. Or if you're having a challenge with it, let me know. I can send you a download of it.
I'm pretty good with that.
Cool.
Can you post Tanya's website blog in the chat? Can you do that for Gerald and Matthew?
Could you?
Yeah.
Could you give it to me?
www.rethink your with a UR health.com.
So I got www.rethinkyourhealth.com.
That's it, sir.
And I'm
That's
going to put
it.
it up
You
on the
just
screen.
click on there and go ahead in there, and I'll be putting this on there, a link to this and a link to you. And I will certainly be promoting the breakthrough class. I think so many people in healthcare. I'm going to try to figure out how to get it to nurses as well. Yeah, for sure, for sure, for sure. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for joining us, Tanya. It's
Oh,
always
my pleasure.
wonderful spending time with you. And I really appreciate the work that you do and have done for women and women's health. To me, it's really, really important. And it's an underappreciated field, and you are a great leader in that field. So thank
Oh,
you.
thank you so much. Don't worry, I'm going to tap you for a sexual health webinar I'm doing soon. There's nobody that knows that world better than you, girl.
Wonderful. All right. I love you. Thank you.
All right, Tanya, thank you again for being
You are
here.
more
It's been
than
an
welcome.
honor. Look forward
Thank
to your
you.
show next week.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It'll be great. Now, we have Tuesday coming up with John Snow, amazing nurse, who is going to be talking about why healthcare is not a socialist by any stretch. He believes it needs to be viewed as a public utility, and everyone needs to have, public health. He's an amazing guy. And then you're the week after
Oh,
Breakthrough
it's 2
Health.
weeks.
Yeah, Breakthrough
I don't know
Health.
why I was thinking Thanksgiving was next week, but we do have
I
2
know.
weeks.
It's all that
before
cooking you want to do. It's all that cooking.
Yes, yes. He'll probably be cooking for a week, knowing him.
No. Just,
Well, thank you, everybody. I appreciate the being in service in any way I can.
great. Thanks for coming, everyone, and thank you for all the views. Go ahead, make sure you like it, share the video, and we'll see you next week if you get a chance.
See you next week. Bye. Thank you.